Have you ever looked in the mirror after 40 and quietly wondered, when did I start accepting less than I deserve? Maybe it was in your career, where you stopped speaking up even though you had years of experience. Maybe it was in relationships, where you kept the peace instead of protecting your peace. Or maybe it was in the way you talk to yourself, brushing off your own needs as if they no longer mattered. After 40, self-respect matters more than ever. Not because we become selfish, not because we stop caring about others, but because this is a stage of life where the cost of ignoring ourselves becomes too high. We've given decades to work, to family, to responsibilities. If we don't learn to stand firmly in our own worth now, when will we? In this video, we're going to talk about 6 habits that quietly but powerfully build self-respect after 40. These aren't dramatic life overhauls. They're steady, practical shifts in how you treat yourself every day. And if you stay with me, you might recognize a few areas where you've been selling yourself short and how to gently change that starting today. Let's begin with something simple but often uncomfortable: keeping your word to yourself. When we're younger, we break promises to ourselves all the time. We say we'll start exercising next week. We say we'll update our resume. We say we'll set boundaries. Then life gets busy and we let it slide. At 25, that feels normal. At 45, it slowly eats away at how we see ourselves. Every time you tell yourself you'll do something and don't follow through, a small crack forms in your self-trust. And self-respect is built on self-trust. If you don't believe your own words, why would you feel strong inside? So start small. Don't promise to change your entire life. Promise that you'll walk for 10 minutes 3 times this week, and do it. Promise that you'll have that difficult but necessary conversation, and prepare for it. Promise that you'll go to bed 30 minutes earlier, and honor that commitment. I once spoke to a man in his late 40s who felt completely stuck. He said he had no confidence left. When we talked deeper, he admitted he had spent years setting goals and abandoning them, not because he was lazy, but because he always put himself last. The turning point wasn't a new job. It was a simple rule: if I say I'll do it, I do it. Within months, he stood taller. Nothing magical happened. He just started respecting his own word. The second habit is learning to say no without guilt. By the time we reach 40, many of us are experts at saying yes. Yes to extra work. Yes to family demands. Yes to social obligations we don't even enjoy. We've been conditioned to be dependable, helpful, available. But constant availability often leads to quiet resentment. Self-respect grows when you recognize your limits and honor them. Saying no doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about your energy. It means you understand that your time is valuable. When you say yes to everything, you send yourself a message that your needs are negotiable. When you say no calmly and clearly, you send yourself a different message. My well-being matters. It can feel uncomfortable at first. You might worry people will be disappointed. But something interesting happens over time. The people who truly value you adjust. And you begin to feel lighter, more in control, more grounded. The third habit is upgrading the way you speak to yourself. After 40, many people carry invisible regrets, missed opportunities, financial mistakes, relationship failures, health issues. And instead of offering themselves compassion, they repeat harsh sentences in their mind. I should be further by now. I wasted my best years. I'm too old to start over. If you would never say those words to a close friend, why are you saying them to yourself? Self-respect includes self-compassion. It doesn't mean ignoring mistakes. It means learning from them without attacking your own worth. Try replacing "I failed again" with "that didn't work, but I'm still capable." Replace "I'm behind" with "my timeline is different, and that's okay." A woman in her early 50s once told me she felt ashamed for going back to school. She thought she looked foolish sitting in a classroom with younger students. But when she changed her internal dialogue from "I'm too late" to "I'm brave enough to begin," everything shifted. She carried herself differently. She participated more. She respected herself for trying. As you practice keeping your word, setting boundaries, and speaking kindly to yourself, you'll notice something subtle but powerful. You won't need as much external validation. You won't chase approval the way you once did. You'll begin to feel steadier inside. And that steadiness prepares you for the next layer of building self-respect. One that has to do with how you handle comparison, success, and the courage to define life on your own terms. Let's continue that conversation. When you reach your 40s and beyond, comparison can become a silent thief. You see former classmates celebrating promotions. You scroll past vacation photos. You hear about someone launching a business or retiring early. And even if you're genuinely happy for them, a quiet voice might whisper, "Why not me?" That whisper can chip away at self-respect if you're not careful. One of the most powerful habits you could develop after 40 is refusing to measure your worth against someone else's timeline. It sounds simple, but it requires discipline, because by this stage of life, we have enough evidence to judge ourselves harshly. We have decades of should have and could have stored in memory. Self-respect grows when you decide that your journey is not a race. It's a path, and paths twist and turn. Some people peak early. Some people bloom later. Some redefine success entirely. Think about how many people change direction in their 40s or 50s. They didn't follow a straight line. They adjusted. They pivoted. And often, their second chapter was stronger because it was built with experience, not ego. A simple practice that helps is limiting how often you expose yourself to comparison triggers. If scrolling social media leaves you feeling inadequate, reduce the time you spend there. If certain conversations always make you feel behind, gently redirect them. Protecting your mindset is not weakness. It is wisdom. Another habit that builds deep self-respect is taking responsibility without carrying shame. There is a difference between responsibility and self-punishment. Responsibility says, "I made that choice, and I can make a different one now." Shame says, "I made that choice, so something is wrong with me." After 40, you likely have a few decisions you regret. Maybe you stayed too long in a job. Maybe you trusted the wrong person. Maybe you avoided a risk. Owning those decisions calmly is powerful. Beating yourself up for them is destructive. I once met a woman who stayed in a career she disliked for nearly 20 years because it felt safe. When her company downsized, she felt angry and embarrassed. But instead of sinking into self-blame, she asked herself a different question. What can I build with what I know now? That shift from shame to responsibility changed everything. She retrained, networked, and within 2 years, she was in a field she genuinely enjoyed. The turning point wasn't luck. It was self-respect, the refusal to define herself by one chapter. Then there's another habit that many people overlook, caring for your physical well-being as a form of dignity. After 40, your body changes. Energy shifts. Recovery takes longer. It's easy to feel frustrated. But self-respect includes treating your body as an ally, not an enemy. You don't have to run marathons. You don't have to look 25 again. But moving regularly, eating with awareness, sleeping enough, these are daily signals that you value yourself. When you neglect your body, you often feel sluggish and discouraged. When you care for it, even in small ways, your confidence rises naturally. A short walk after dinner, drinking more water, stretching in the morning. These actions seem minor, but they build momentum. They remind you that you are still in control of your direction. As you reduce comparison, take responsibility without shame, and honor your physical health, something begins to shift internally. You stop chasing the image of who you thought you should be by now. You begin appreciating who you are becoming. And from that place, a new question starts to form, not why am I behind, but what do I want the next decade to stand for? That question is where the deepest layer of self-respect truly takes shape. There comes a moment, often quietly, when you realize that life after 40 is not about proving yourself anymore. It's about aligning yourself, aligning your actions with your values, aligning your time with what truly matters. And this is where the final habits that strengthen self-respect come alive. One of the most important is choosing your circle carefully. By this stage of life, you've likely experienced different kinds of relationships. Supportive ones, draining ones, competitive ones, encouraging ones. Self-respect means recognizing that not everyone deserves front-row access to your energy. If someone constantly belittles your ideas, dismisses your goals, or makes you feel small, pay attention. You don't have to create drama. You don't have to cut people off harshly, but you can reduce exposure. You can invest more time in people who uplift you. Energy is precious after 40. You feel it more clearly when it's drained. Surrounding yourself with those who respect your growth reinforces your own self-respect. The final habit is giving yourself permission to evolve. Many people feel trapped by their past identity. I've always been the responsible one. I've always worked this type of job. I've never been confident. These sentences become cages. But who decided you must remain the same? Self-respect means acknowledging that you are allowed to change. You are allowed to learn new skills. You are allowed to rest more. You are allowed to want different things than you did at 30. I remember speaking with a man who had spent decades in a stable but unfulfilling career. At 48, he started exploring a creative passion he had ignored since his 20s. At first, he felt foolish, but as he practiced, improved, and shared his work, he rediscovered a part of himself he had buried. He told me, "I finally feel like I'm living honestly." That honesty is self-respect in action. When you combine all these habits, keeping your word, setting boundaries, speaking kindly to yourself, rejecting comparison, taking responsibility without shame, caring for your body, choosing your circle wisely, and allow yourself to evolve, you create a quiet strength, not loud confidence, not arrogance, but a steady inner belief that says, I matter. And here's the beautiful part. Self-respect is not built overnight. It's built in daily decisions, small ones, repeated ones. Each time you choose yourself in a healthy way, you reinforce your worth. If something in this conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Share in the comments which habit you feel ready to strengthen. Maybe you're working on saying no. Maybe you're learning to forgive yourself. Your story might encourage someone else who feels alone. If this message spoke to you, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. There are so many people over 40 quietly questioning their value, and together we can build a space that reminds each other of our strength. Remember, the second half of your life can be the most grounded, authentic, and powerful chapter yet. You are not too old. You are not too late. You are experienced, capable, and still growing. Wishing you the courage to stand taller, the wisdom to honor your needs, and the confidence to move forward with self-respect every single day.